Where do you come from?
You're listening to Ladies Night on the Provoke Inspire podcast.
Ladies Night. Ladies Night.
During the day.
Welcome to the Provoke and Inspire podcast, calling followers of Jesus to radical faith outside of the church. Now, I always dance during the beginning music because I just need to get in the spirit. I need to limber up. I need to loosen the jowls and get ready for the conversation that is going to be coming. Right, ladies?
Yeah, right. It's
I don't
good.
think you need to loosen your jowls ever in your life.
My jowls are sufficiently loose. Ania, when you're ready, give me the thumbs up and I will throw you into the conversation like, I don't know, like something. I rattled through a few options in my head. They all sounded a little weird. I bailed and backed up.
Okay.
So this is Ladies Night, a version of the Provoke and Inspire podcast that we get to do every week. And though you would expect me to be tense with my wife to my right and my mother across the world, I'm actually quite relaxed. I feel great. How do you guys feel?
Why would you feel tense?
Anya, you good? Can I throw Anya into the conversation? I think we're going to do it. And for a special entrance into Ladies Night, Ania Greenwood.
Yeah.
Hello, Anya.
There she is.
Hi,
she's got the bright light on. Good.
No, I like it. For those watching, and there are 8 of you watching, every week there's a new angle, there's a new lighting setup. It's a constant work in progress. And for your tireless effort at perfectionism, we salute you. Wait, where is it? There it is. So
You got one of those on.
yeah, we do. Like I said, Provoke and Inspire podcast, calling followers of Jesus to radical faith outside of the church. That is our heart. The start of Ladies Night was really kind of tied together with this whole pandemic that has hit our world. We really felt that we should release more content. People were struggling to know how to interpret this situation, what God might be saying to them, how they should react. And our heart is to say, Jesus, in every season, in every circumstance, let us be faithful to you. Let us be everything that you want us to be. And so I thought this would be a great way to bring a fresh voice, a different perspective. And we've done it every week. And I think it's been awesome. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. Although one complaint I received was that the ladies don't have their own like sounds. You know, we have like David's like, oh, no, that's the salute again. We have David sounds, like,
I don't want to be a
all the classics.
And now the sun sets over.
And people are like, where are the ladies' voices? And so I
Yeah.
think I'm going to slowly introduce them, starting with this one.
I'd like to
Oh.
see that belly.
Oh,
I'd like to see that belly.
I don't know. I thought that was a great little soundbite to throw in there.
She says that a lot to people.
Yeah. Wait,
I would like to see that. Oh, wait a minute.
she's always saying that. She's just walking down the street. She's like,
I'd like to see that belly.
and then when she goes to the grocery store, she's like,
I'd like to see that belly.
and then when she's on the surf beach, she's like,
I'd like to see that belly.
oh, I combined one. Anyway, Anya, how's Poland?
How is Poland? Poland
Yes.
is very good. It's very nice. We have nice weather. Spring
Good.
started, so the
Good.
quarantine it's much easier now. So everybody's more relaxed, and yeah,
Good.
it's
Good.
really nice.
Every time Jodi sees Gabe, she's like,
I'd like to see that belly.
oh. There's so many good things I could do with that.
Gabe.
All right. So this podcast will come out in all of its glory tomorrow around 3 p.m. Central. We've moved it back a little bit. Kippy, our engineer, just pictured a frazzled guy with dreads pointing in all directions, sweating furiously, trying to edit all of this. And, David says so many inappropriate things. It's really hard to edit these podcasts, but he gets them out. We gave him a couple more hours, 3 p.m. You can go ahead and check them all out. We've had great conversations over this last few months. We've interviewed people from all over the world. We've had Ladies Night every week. It's been awesome. But one thing that we also have had is...
All right. That wasn't very loud.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Tap dance for a little bit, and I'm going to crank you up. You ready? Here we go.
Yes. Okay. So for a long time, I have had a theory that I could learn something.
Ooh.
Yes, I have a theory.
Sorry, I was trying to be enthusiastic.
But yeah, it was all fake. That I could learn something from everyone, no matter who they are. Oh my goodness.
Sorry. I'm really
going on?
happy that I got the buttons working. And so I'm just going button
No,
crazy.
just no problem. I can handle it. Okay, so I can learn something from everyone. So I really like living that way. You never know what you're going to learn. So
Indeed.
it's actually quite good. So when David and I were first in Amsterdam, we lived in a place called the Samaritan's Inn, which was on the edge of the red light district. So
Yes.
and the first summer we were there, we lived with about, well, at least over 100. The number was reported to be 120 people in that building, which was really quite ridiculous.
Well, it all
But-
depends on the size of the building. You have to
Yeah,
give some context to the people, because if it's like the Empire
Right.
State Building, then we're all thinking, wow,
No.
they had a condominium.
Luxurious living.
They had a condominium to
no,
the
oh,
mindium
no.
to themselves.
And it was not in good shape. So
Oh.
it was, okay, let me explain a little bit more. David and I lived in a closet in that building because there was no other place to live. And we had a blanket hanging down from the ceiling that acted as a door. So
Go
picture
on.
that. It was not, the building was really in not good repair. So we had no hot water. So we had to go 10 minutes, walk 10 minutes for a shower, away to the boat, actually to the boat that we got later in Steiger. So it was not a good situation, but we were okay. And one of the people living with us in that building was a guy who I met on the steps that led down to this kind of basement kitchen where all our food was prepared. And he would sit there every night with this kind of like this homemade gun that worked. You could shoot
Was it like
by
a rubber band gun kind of
Yes,
vibe?
exactly. That's
See, I
just
knew
what I
it.
was gonna.
I just
yes.
knew it. I thought about
Mhm.
it and I knew it.
Yes. So he would put a rubber band on it.
By the way,
and-
hold
and
up.
Yeah.
We got people watching, but where are the comments at? Come on, somebody let me know you're there. Be like, what up? Keep going, Jodi.
And these random stories are really difficult. So I need
And I can tell
encouragement.
you're used to talking with translation because you're very deliberate and careful. And you just expect someone in your ear to be like, shabba, shabba,
I know.
shabba, shabba, shabba.
It's true. Anya, can you just translate it?
I think he was making fun of you, Anya.
I know. Yeah.
No, Polish, for anyone who wants to know, sounds like a bunch of people sharpening knives in a tent.
Why?
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. My 10-minute
Ben
limit
said
isn't going. It's just clicking away just like that. So he was putting a rubber. What did you just say? I didn't even hear you. I didn't even listen to you. He was putting this rubber band on this homemade gun, and then he would put peanut butter on little plates around the kitchen. And this was all at night. So we would go out in outreach, we would do stuff on the street and then we would come back. Probably we were really hungry. And so I would go down in the kitchen and there this guy was, because he did this every night and he would keep a record of how many mice he shot that night. And so he would,
Ooh,
and
like
he
a
would tell
tally
me.
board.
I
So the
know.
peanut butter wasn't a midnight snack for you. It was
Oh
for the
heavens,
mice.
no! I hope yes, it's for the mice. So,
Ugh.
but I worked in that kitchen. That he was doing this every night. But for some reason, his strange hobby never bothered me. Never really bothered me. I was a very strange girl. At least.
Well,
I
he
don't
was
remember.
being, he was looking out for the well-being of the rest
Yeah.
of the.
No, but he would, there the mice would be in the kitchen, and he was proud. He was proud of his scores every night.
Ugh.
I got 6 tonight or whatever. But it didn't really ever bother me. At least I don't remember that it did, but I might have blocked it out. I blocked
Maureen
out a lot.
says, so David lived in a closet. This explains a lot, indeed.
No,
Maureen
now
is
David,
not British.
Well, that's my reading voice.
Wow.
Maureen, we both lived in the closet. And
Mother, we are perilously close to the
Okay.
Bruce Red line. Can we shuffle this thing along a little bit?
My goodness.
My
Okay,
goodness,
so
I feel like
I
I'm
am
listening to the
so
verbal
nervous.
version of paint drying right now.
Please, people that are watching, comment. I'm just on the edge. So the moral to this story is my theory was again proven right. I could learn something from everyone. I learned everyone has a skill and a role to play.
Wow.
Oh.
Amazing, Jodi.
Now let's all bask in the moral of that story.
I wanted to hear like a story about the mice.
Oh,
I would like to also.
Because that wasn't like
I-
they kind of crashed and burned at the end there.
I would like to point out. I would like to point out that
Yeah.
that like your husband, the closet dwelling husband you had
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have present tense and probably will have.
We're
And
still in a
let's be
closet. We like
honest,
it.
he'll be rocking for years to come.
Yeah.
You're starting to have like very distinct categories to your stories, and right now they're all
I have nice
rodent
ones?
related. You've had a lot of
Oh.
rodent related stories, but wait,
I
hold on.
don't-
We're gonna bask in the glory of the moral of the story with
Okay.
this.
Okay. So and I'd like to see that belly. If that you know.
I'd like to see that belly.
All right, we gotta
All right,
move along.
that's
This is
best I can
getting
do.
the chicanery is boiling over.
I need more comments.
Yes. Yeah, no, the comments are coming in. You can see them if you would like to. Okay, a
I
couple
never
ways
do.
that you can be involved, that you can support us. One is subscribe. Yeah, exactly. Jenna Rice says animal cruelty. That also tends to be one of David's topics du jour.
Wait. Yeah, go ahead.
His mind is a twisted cacophony of randomness. All right, here's the thing.
As is yours.
Yeah, well, you know, genetics. What you gonna do? You got to roll with the dice you've been given in the satchel. All right, so Provoke and Inspire. Check it out. Share it with someone that does not yet know. Grab them by the scruff of the neck gently in a social distancing sort of way, and be like, "Hey, you listen to the Provoke and Inspire podcast." And if they're a regular listener, say, "Have you yet rated it? Have you left a review?" This would really, really help us. The 3 R's: rate, subscribe, review. Everyone now together. Ready? Rate, subscribe, review. All right, there it is. That would really help us. Also, you can join the Provoke and Inspire podcast community page on Facebook. We're constantly developing this. We want to make it a real community where we have ideas right now about ways that we can go deeper with that, but join it. You can be part of conversations that happen around this podcast before and after. You can contribute directly to the topics that get discussed on this podcast. It's happened many times before. So consider doing that. Otherwise, we're going to transition now to the topic. Now, sorry, I know I've done a lot of talking, and I'm sure comments will come in. Please give me some comments about my how much I'm running my mouth here. But we've been talking about pollution, right? Not so much from an ecological perspective, but this sort of symbolism of industrial nations being shut down due to the COVID crisis, air clearing, people seeing the stars. But then as soon as the cars hit the road, the pollution comes back. And this really struck me from a symbolic perspective, because I was thinking, what pollution in my life should be clearing, is clearing. But when this all returns, what pollution do I not want to return? And we've talked about some pretty heavy topics. I mean, perfectionism and vanity and consumerism. I mean, these aren't light topics. And I know there are experts and we could go on for hours, but I think we've covered it in a pretty good way. The one we're going to talk about today is individualism. So just another very light subject.
Exactly.
Individualism being core to our Western ideals, really. I think worldwide, and we live in a global culture, but individualism is just built into our DNA. It's axiomatic. People just believe it's, like the American, founding documents just talk about these inalienable rights. They deny God, most of them, but they still believe that there's these sort of like godlike rights that have just been bestowed upon them. And what's sad is that as this COVID crisis has hit, I think we have almost in a heightened way realized how much we miss people, right? Community has become just front and center. And so I want a little bit later, I'll talk a little bit about where this idea of individualism came. But just maybe reacting off there, starting maybe with you, Courtney, how has the isolation made you realize both our individualistic tendencies and also sort of renewed your sense of just how important relationships are?
I mean, for me, I do a lot of things with other moms. And so I just have missed my sweet community and these other women who are in the same phase of life as me. And then on the flip side, I have felt there's just like a genuine missing of my sweet friends that God has placed in my life. And then on the flip side, just being so thankful for social media and texting and our group chats and all and Zoom calls, because we've been able to keep up with our community. And so just really feeling that, just the importance of community right now. And then I also know on the same side that this has become a situation where it has magnified people's lack of community. And so I've just been thinking a lot about how blessed I feel for the community that I have, and so thankful for the amazing resources of social media, of group texting and Zoom to keep us connected. And so I personally, I miss my friends and I miss activities and I miss going out, but I feel more blessed, I'd say, at this point than I feel lacking something. I mean, I miss my community, but I feel more,
Makes you grateful
yeah,
for
it makes
them.
me feel grateful and like more positive about the life that God has really mapped out for me. But I know that people are really struggling, and that it's some of our own doing by living in this individual society of
Right.
working for the man and fighting for our American or Western dream. I'm not saying people deserve it at all, but it's often self-created, and I feel sad for people and I feel worried. I feel concerned about the mental health of people right now.
Yeah. What do you guys think? How is this hitting you? This just maybe first impressions of the topic of individualism, and then maybe as it intersects with the COVID crisis. What do you guys think?
What I would say is I think the thing that I mean, I have a lot of people in my life, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm so, I'm incredibly grateful for it, and the family that we get to be a part of is so the international family. But the one thing that I have really been thinking about is that I need really I need specific kind of, you are my person to get accountability from. I need to do more of that because I need it. I need accountability. And I think that's kind of just quickly, if what I would say is, what I've noticed is I value wise, godly people that can go, you know what, think this way. You're not thinking right on this. So that's
Mm.
just one little thought, is just accountability. I want it. I need it. I always have. But sometimes when you're so busy, you don't set it up as much as you should.
Yeah.
You know, where they will cover for you. They will say the wise word when you need it.
Yeah. What about you, Anya?
Yeah. It's really interesting because I was thinking about that today. And I just realized that actually, for me as an extrovert, at the beginning it was difficult, but looking at this time, it was very valuable time. I can't say how I could be individualistic being a mom
Right.
with two very lively children that they are amazing. So I had a lot of fun and good time with my children, and I never had to look around so much like this time. It was just amazing that we could just spend all meals together and work together and just be at the same house. So I think it was very valuable time, but at the same time, all of the like Courtney was saying, there is a lot of community, a lot of relationships around that is built it, and I in some way it was difficult because at the beginning the topic was only coronavirus, so I was really struggling how to encourage people and how to be for them in this time by just talking, but having also at this time normal life, and it was just impossible. It was
Yeah.
just very difficult until I was really like, it was too heavy on my brain and on my heart. How can I deal with this?
Mhm.
But now I just feel, as an extrovert talking, it was really important for me to see which relationships I really value the most,
Yeah.
who is the most important for me, with who I want to spend time and how much. Like I can see the time is just so valuable, because sometimes it's just like a race. You run and run and you don't think about a lot of stuff. And now I just really could think what is really valuable, which relationships I want to invest the
Yeah.
most, and which ones during this time they
Yeah.
survived and they became even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So in this way, I won't say it was very individualistic time,
Right.
um, but it was very good time for me individually to spend more time with God and really saying, God, okay, what's the most important for me? Which relationships? And I'm so happy I
That's
could
good.
spend more time with Him and with
Yeah.
my family. This was really valuable time.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, what I'm going to attempt to do here, I think, is explain more the context, even from a philosophical perspective, because I think, like I said in the beginning, I think individualism has become so embedded into our psyche that I don't think we even realize it. And I think a lot of the things that people are experiencing is that, like I said, in that sort of pollution clearing paradigm, you can live in this state where you always, even when you're with people, you kind of are like, they're sort of impinging my freedom. Like I can struggle with that, where I'm so task oriented that I see even a hangout as kind of like, can I truly let myself go? And to be honest, sometimes only around the people I go way back with or am super, super close with. Those are the people I can more easily forget time with, but almost everybody else, it's hard. I'm like, I got this to do, I got that to do. And I think part of that is that we have become, we didn't really need to be told to social distance. We have become socially distant. And it's something that, it started, if you look back in history, we had a stage where the pre-modern stage where there was really a fixed reality. And so you have God at the center, whether people were believing that or not, God was very much the center. And he put people in their positions. So the kings were there because God said they should be there. And if you were a peasant, you didn't move. That was your position in life. And of course, this was horrible. People were abused. Very few people had everything. Most people had nothing. And you have all these religious wars and political wars and all of this struggle. And so then you have the Enlightenment. And in the Enlightenment, people basically said, we have to get rid of these power structures. We have to get rid of the religious elite and the political powers and the kings. And so it went from God at the center to really man at the center. So you have this fixed idea getting pushed away. Now man is the center. And you have this sense of we can do anything. If we put our minds to it, we will conquer it. Our science, our education, our technology, we will solve every problem. We'll solve all problems. But then you have the 1900s, you have the 20th century, and this is the worst, bloodiest, horrible century in the world and in history, where you have both wars, you have genocide, you have Holocaust, you have gulags, you have all sorts of atrocities. So then you get to the 70s, and a little bit earlier than that, but really the 70s is kind of the era that it's known for. You have postmodernism, and people say, you know what? Gods and kings weren't good enough. Ideologies and brains weren't good enough. Maybe we need to reject everything. And all authority, all interpretations, everything is inherently oppressive. And I get to decide everything for myself. I mean, it got so extreme that people were even saying, it doesn't matter what the author thought of what they said. I get to decide what the author means. Even words were just totally made relativistic. And so you have this God at the center, man at the center, nothing is at the center. And really, it takes a long time for intellectual ideas to become daily ideas, for the intellectuals in cafes in Paris before it comes like everyday person in the factory. And we really are now at the point where everyday factory person believes and thinks this way. I get to decide everything. I decide who I am. I decide what I do. I decide what is true. I am the ultimate person. And so what I want to talk about is there are some consequences. There are some devastating consequences. The apologist Nancy Pearcey, who we've actually had on this podcast, says once a society accepts her worldview, it tends to work out the logical consequences. And I think we're in a season where we are starting to realize, wow, some of these things that we've believed and some of the places that they have taken us have really hurt us. And I think this COVID crisis has made that even more clear, because we have kind of the emperor with no clothes. We're starting to see what we thought was good is really pretty bankrupt. I just want to read one small thing. I know I'm dominating here, but there's this book, really good, interesting book by I'll go closer there. It's his name's Yuval Harari. He's a
Your hand was covered. It's called
Sapiens by Yuval Harari. And he's this scholar, this Jewish scholar, secular guy.
I actually think you just held this book up so everybody could see how smart you are.
Oh no, it's anyway, no. But and the reason why I want to read this quote from him is because he's a secular guy, and he goes through the whole sweeping narrative of human history, from the Neanderthals all the way through into the age of biotech and AI and how we're going to destroy ourselves. And there's going to, even sapiens are going to go away. And now it's going to be these new things. I don't know. But I want to read the last 2 paragraphs of his book. So keep in mind, huge book about the history of humanity. And this is how the secular guy ends his book. He writes this: moreover, despite the astonishing things that humans are capable of doing, we remain unsure of our goals, and we seem to be as discontented as ever. We've advanced from canoes to galleys to spaceships, We have advanced from canoes to galleys to steamships to space shuttles, but no one knows where we're going. We are more powerful than ever, but have very little idea what to do with that power. Worse still, human beings seem to be more irresponsible than ever. Let me say that again. Worse still, humans seem to be more irresponsible than ever. Self-made gods with only the laws of physics to keep us company. We are accountable to no one. We are consequently wreaking havoc on our fellow animals and on the surrounding ecosystems, seeking little more than our comfort and amusement, yet never finding satisfaction. Is there anything more dangerous than dissatisfied and irresponsible gods who don't know what they want?
Wow.
That's how he ends his book.
Yeah, crazy.
The secular scholar who teaches at the University of Jerusalem, he ends his sweeping history of mankind with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jodi, these things are not, I know I said a lot of stuff and it was very academic, but these are not academic things. These are serious things. And guys who devote their entire careers to trying to understand this, they are left with no answers. So talk a little bit about what are the consequences of individualism? Well, it's not just mental. It's not just an academic exercise. It's devastating, isn't it?
Yeah, the loneliness, and just the despair. I say this, I've said this before, but I never understand how somebody how can he end that way? How can that author end that way? That's just craziness. And then what? What does his day look like after he ends his book that he's put his life probably effort into? If it ends that way, what does life look like for him? Because he's clearly a thinker. But yeah, that for me, I suppose it's the thing that it really hits me is I cannot be selfish with the understanding that I have of what God can do in a life, because that is where we're at. I see it. I when I'm left, I say this, but when I look inside and think, okay, where's my strength? Where can I rally my strength and go for it, for this goal or for this purpose in life? And I always come up empty. And if you're honest, that's what happens. And how do you do that without God that can guide you and go, wait, I'm here. I can help you.
Yeah.
Despair.
Yeah. One thing, Courtney, and I could ask,
okay.
I can ask you this. So one thing that I think is interesting is that, we are now social distance within our bubble, right? Like the people that we're allowed to be around. Don't you find it interesting that part of the predicament that we're in is that our bubbles have become so small? I mean, don't you think that that's part of it? What, imagine if we lived in these big, rich communities. I don't know, maybe they would force us all to sit in different rooms. I don't know. But don't you think part of the Western modern loneliness, it's kind of like a little microcosm, but don't you feel like it's that part of that is that we have become so isolated that a situation like this just all the more reveals the consequences of our own actions?
Yeah. And we don't live with people and we don't live by people, and we don't even in a lot of situations know our neighbors, which is it's a very common thing, is not knowing your neighbor, because people don't talk and people stay in their houses, and you feel that push of isolation even more. And I feel that because we switched back to our real house and people in our neighborhood don't really talk. In our old neighborhood, they talked a lot. And I felt like, we were discussing this as we kind of moved back, that it was a little bit like I have a heavy feeling, because we came from this place where we'd run into people, we're in social isolation, but people all wanted to talk. And then we have to kind of reorient to this community where they don't speak as much. And maybe that's our own fault. And I'm totally willing to change if that's the case. But it's, it's definitely, it's hard because you so long for, I mean, at the core, even if you say you don't long for it, I can't imagine that people are satisfied being alone in their house.
Yeah.
Mm.
Ania, do you think that secularism even gives a person what they need to genuinely be selfless? Do you think secularism even prepares someone for that? Yeah, on some levels, but if they truly understood the idea that I'm God and I decide, doesn't that kind of undermine the very necessary ingredients to even be someone that is not individualistic?
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a difficult question, really, because you need to really go and deep in the understanding of somebody's mind and how what they can actually offer for you. And um, um, I was watching a lot of videos today on YouTube, and there was one guy that he was from the secular background, and it was very interesting because he's Polish and he lived in Australia, and he said something. I I traveled to all of the continents. I traveled to all of the countries. It's like my dream came true. And only the last country, the continent, which is Australia in Sydney, he he recognized something at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was doing everything by himself, like he was making decisions, everything, like all of the trips, everything what he was doing. It was his decisions, his ambitions. He was dealing with everything by himself. And then he decided, okay, I'm going to the beach at 6 o'clock in the morning and will be there by myself, and I can just decide what's the next step. And he went there and he thought like he will be by himself on the beach. And there was like hundreds of people doing exercise, swimming in the sea, and just he was just looking as like, wow, all of these people, even he was in the country that is considered as a secular country, just like they are living by life, but they really need community. They are doing these things, and there was a lot of sports and trainings and everything. And he was just like, they are like we are. And this is his basically conclusion. He was like, we are like a flock of the sheep. Like we are sheep. We are just like group of people that we need each other. We can't do things by ourselves. We need to do things, and we learn from each other, and we need to just um how to say it, it's just like we need to interact, and depends where we are put, then we learn. So with the secular mind, I really believe, because there was this secular guy that he is very good comedian, but at the same time he's just saying like, yeah, you can just think about yourself and your ethics. You just like, there is no God, nothing. There is nothing in the world. And he was like, we have our ethics. We know what is moral. We know what is good. And at the same time, I'm just feeling like, no, it's just because you were created in England, that it's with the Christian background, and you know what is good, you know
Right.
what is right for people. But at the same time, if you will be in favela in Brazil, if you will be this child growing up with so much criminals and so much, um, abuse and drug addictions, that like there you are 5-year-old and you are some just addicted to some crack or something, and just you don't know, you can kill somebody without even thinking, because this is normal life. So that's why I'm just saying like, can you really generalize, and can you say something like, what secular word is offering you? You just like, you
Right.
need to you need to look around, and you have to, like this guy said, you're like a sheep, but you learn from each other. So depends where you put, what is your background, what is your culture around,
Right.
you will take it. But we need, in everything we need God. We can't just just be by ourselves and make decisions by ourselves. We need each other. We need to learn from each other. We need
Yeah. But I think part of that is part of the challenge, is that I think people innately sense what is true about how we are made, and that is that we need each other. that we are community. Now, a social evolutionist would say we're herd animal and we need each other for warmth and all that nonsense. But we sense deep down that we need people. And yet the cultural message is you're God, your needs matter most. Do you get your own space, build your fence, be, you're the king of your castle or queen of your castle or whatever sort of aristocratic title you want to choose. But so there's a dissonance, right, Jodi? It's that that's, I think, so much of the secular struggle is that you are wrestling with these innate felt truths and then a culture that's telling you the exact opposite. And you're somehow trying to live in the middle of that. Isn't that part of this?
Yeah, exactly. Because we're believing a lie. And there's all kinds of lies, and kind of contrary to what you said, Ania, and which you will understand what I'm saying. We can't be sheep.
No,
we cannot be sheep, because we will believe that and say, okay, good. I can decide everything, whatever feels right to me is cool. And that's the way I should go. And where does that leave us? It's a stupid lie. We're not meant to be alone. We're not, like I said earlier, I need accountability. I need other people's opinions and wisdom. And so then when we believe that lie, we're just left again in despair, because we can't do it. We're not created that way. We're created, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, the beauty of being in a group of people that have different gifts and can hold your arm up when you are weak, and all of that. You learn so much faster in community, because the iron sharpens iron. He thinks that, okay, that's cool. I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong here. I'll change. All the good things that come from that. So we can't believe that lie.
No, but we sense that, right? But we resist it at the same time, because we have our sin nature, and then we have the cultural message. And the cultural message says you're a victim, you're never wrong. If you are wrong, it's not something you've done. We fight all of this dissonance because we're told one thing and we experience another thing. I think morality is another example of that. We're told you get to decide what's right or wrong, or there is no right or wrong. And yet when something happens that violates that sense of justice built inside of us, we cry out, that's wrong. And we don't even seem to notice the incongruence there. Courtney, this is an interesting thought for me. I was reading in a book, Why Liberalism Failed, and it sounds...
Here we go again.
Oh, come on. I'm setting up good conversations here. This book...
I just have to harass him out of my own insecurities, because I do audiobooks, because that's the kind of focus I have.
This is another really good book. Now, you might think this is like political, like it's all about politics. It's not. It's about the true heart of what liberalism is meant to be. Liberalism, in its truest sense, is... You don't need someone to self-regulate. You are a self-regulating type of person. You have civic responsibility. You care about other people, and you suppress the moral, the immoral urges inside of you. And that's kind of twisted. And that's not really the point of what I was trying to say. It talks about loneliness in this book, and I think it's really interesting. And so this is the author quoting someone else, and he says this. He goes, "Yet March is the last name of the author of the article he's quoting from The Atlantic," and he says, "Yet March refreshingly avoids blaming Facebook for the epidemic of loneliness. Rather, he notes that Facebook and technologies like it have facilitated or even enabled a pre-existing predilection, the long-standing American desire to be independent and free. Facebook is thus a tool that elicits loneliness from a deeper set of political, philosophical, and even theological commitments. As March points out, loneliness is one of the first things that Americans spend their money on. We are lonely because we want to be lonely. We have made ourselves lonely." And so the thing I want to ask is, Paul Wichterman says I need a book club. I would love a book
nobody's going to join his book club because the books are real dry.
Paul would join my book club. It'd be for learned young men who care not for the world's opinion. Okay, so
again, I guess British or something.
Yes. Here's the question I have. It's kind of a chicken and egg sort of thing. I think it's very in vogue to say, well, it's Facebook. Let's just rid ourselves of Facebook, and then I won't be lonely, or these different things. But are we going deep enough? I think we need to get a little bit deeper, even as Christians, into the true source of our loneliness. And I think what it is that in making ourselves God, we have isolated ourselves. Do you think that most people think deep enough about the causes of their loneliness?
No, I not at all. And when you guys were talking before, I was thinking of this idea of how we have so embraced individualism, and that like we're the god of our own life and we determine our own paths and our own morality, and yet we have created around our life we put into place things that make us feel less lonely. And so we believe all of that, but then we go to the same gym every day, we go to the same coffee shops every day, we go to the same parks every day, so we can have this community without people actually pressing us to become something different. Does that make sense? I just had this thought, like, I don't know, I talk about the gym a lot, so you guys can just punch me later, but this is the life that
no one will be punching you.
Okay. We're not punchers.
This is the life that I live. And I just think like you can continue to live in your own mind and your own morality and your own thoughts, and yet create for yourself a life where you don't feel lonely, but you are lonely to the core, but you're physically around people.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that when the pandemic hit and the gym closed, I mean, I cannot tell you how many people messaged me, Facebooked me, text me like, I'm not going to make it with the gym closed. And I will say I do have real relationships there. So I really do. Like it is one of the coolest places I've been able to make friends, but most people go there for community to feel not alone. And it's not because they're talking to anybody. They're just around warm bodies. And then they're able to
literally,
leave.
Depending on the yoga class they took.
They're able to leave and still be their own God of their life and not be challenged by people, but not feel that deep, but not deal with the deep loneliness. And I think that that's exactly true, Ben, is that people are not they're putting practices into place that make them forget that they are lonely. And now all of those practices have been stripped away. I mean, I go to the same coffee shop every Wednesday because apparently I'm an 85-year-old grandma.
Why does that make you a grandma?
I don't know, because it's like I go to at 10 o'clock every Wednesday to meet a friend.
It could make you a lover of coffee and scones.
I am. It's actually an ice cream shop. The belly's growing, not because of a baby, but because of scones. But I go to the same coffee shop every Wednesday, and the same like 6 people are there, guys and girls, older gentlemen and women are always there every single Wednesday. And that's great. I love that. That's awesome. I think cool that they've created that, but it makes me think that's masking the not that, but like the idea of creating these systems in your life where you're able to mask the loneliness and never deal with the true loneliness in your life.
Yeah. I would say that's what you would call like alone together.
Yeah. Alone together.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's that book, the author Turkle. But anyway, go ahead, Ania.
Yeah, I just had really like a lot of thoughts, so I would like to share something because you, Jodi, said that we are not like a sheep, but I really believe what Courtney explained, it's something like we want to belong somewhere. It doesn't, I think we are very confused when you talk to young people now, especially that they are really grew up with the social media very strongly. They really don't understand, because in the concept of individualism, there is no concept of loneliness. There is like nobody's talking about it. So maybe in the let's say dictionary doesn't exist. So they really are confused what they need. And this whole concept of being with somebody, but trying to be always strong, trying to be always the most beautiful, the best, always want something and being ambitious and get something in life. It really covered the basic need of the community, the basic need of being part of something. They really stopped having normal communication. They don't know what to talk about, and they are really their identity is based on what people think about them by likes and comments and everything. So I really feel like people really became confused. So that's why I'm just saying with this guy that sat on the beach, he was saying like it's like a flock of the sheep, because he was really doing everything by himself, and he saw really people need each other. They need each other to really of course, he said, like, his concept is like, you need to be around good people that they know what is good for your body and it's good for you and stuff. But the thing is that sometimes you're born in the place where you can't decide, and
Mhm.
you have to be part of it. But nowadays, it's just like people are there, and you need to be yourself. You need to know what you want. This is like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
you
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
But I think you're saying something that's really, really good. And Jodi, I think you want to jump in here too. But that's the problem. You see, what postmodernism has done is it stripped away all cultural institutions, including the family and the community and the larger community. And so what that means is that since we no longer find our identity in belonging, in being,
Mhm.
we now have to find our identity in doing.
Yeah.
It's turned into this meritocracy. And it's a horrible thing, because I used to be, I'm important because I'm son of so and so, part of this family, part of this church, part of this larger. That is my role. That is where I belong. And sure, people can say, yeah, that was abused and there was no social mobility. And if I wanted to marry this person or do that, I couldn't. Of course, it's sinful. There's always sinful elements in every system. But you belonged simply for being who you were, born into a certain situation. Now that has been stripped away, and now it is, you are what you do. And so it's
Yeah.
feverish. You have to constantly earn the praise of people. And also there's a lie that says my identity can be formed in isolation. I tell myself who I am. And it's a psychological impossibility. And I think that's what you're saying, Ania. You need validation from other people, from a community. And so what's happened is we've traded family, church, neighbors who have our backs, who should have our backs, for social media and friends who are as insecure as we are. And so we haven't really traded opinions of others for no opinions.
Yeah.
We've traded opinions of those who should love us for opinions of people who have no interest in loving us. Isn't that part of this, Jodi? Is this meritocracy that our world has been thrust into?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's so interesting. Like, okay, let me just answer it this way. Like when you say this independence, that okay, we're supposed to be independent. The answers are within us. We could decide, and that then we don't even realize, that there's this just whole loneliness that we can't even define, because it's like not even part of the deal.
Yeah.
But so here we have this huge need for community, and like I said, we can even break that down more, what the beauty of community. But there's various things that hold us back from that, like, okay, we've been taught to be independent. We, maybe we have it's just kind of this pride thing. For me, it was kind of like, I can do my life myself. I'm not going to trust people. I can do it myself.
Right.
I don't, I'd learned maybe to not trust people. So that's an aspect, but still it leaves me lonely, or because I guess I kind of combined it, because I'm hurt, because I've been hurt. I'm not going to trust people. So I'll be independent, or I can do this. I've got the power within me. But again, I will keep saying the same word. We are left in despair because of it. And the very cultural institutions that should be there, it should be that community for us. We just think, nope, don't need it. I mean, actually, a coffee shop can be an awesome community.
Not with headphones.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. Well, there you go. We strip that away too.
But I was just thinking about, like, just the idea of we run from this real challenging community, and then, but if you think about your best relationships in your life, and I think about Ben, and I think about you weren't on like the good list, you're on the bad list. No. No, I think about Ben, and I think about my friend who I meet at the coffee shop on Wednesdays, and these just like rich, like my friend I've known since I was 8 years old, and these rich, long-lasting relationships of people who I keep around even when they confront me on the sin and the wrong things in my life, even if it hurts me. And yet those are now, obviously I'm married to Ben, but my friend, those are the relationships that have changed me the most and are the most fulfilling. And those are the things that we're running from in an individualistic society. And it's so counterintuitive, because what is actually the best thing are these relationships that hold you accountable to the person that you need to be and the person that God is calling you to be are the relationships that we're saying, oh no, we don't want those because they're putting us into a box. They're pressing us into a person that we don't want to be. It's making us deal with things that are hard and messy, and we just want simple, and we want deep, but we don't want to ever confront anything that might be bad about us or wrong about us or things that we need to change. We want to talk deep and think deep and be all philosophical, but we don't ever actually want to deal with anything, which is so opposite of what the real great relationships are in your life.
Yeah, to me, this is the freedom paradox, the sad secular freedom paradox, and that is that in making freedom your God, you become a slave to it.
Yeah.
And then ultimately you're a slave to your desire for freedom. Listen to Dietrich Bonhoeffer from the book Renovation of the Heart by Dallas Willard. It's Dallas Willard. Sorry, I know it's the book club. I just love this topic. This is another great book. Renovation of the Heart, Dallas Willard. Sorry, angle. Check that one out. But listen, he quotes Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and listen to this. Whereas the primal relationship of man to man is a giving one, in the state of sin, it's purely demanding. Every man exists in a state of complete voluntary isolation. Each man lives his own life instead of all living the same God life. And then Dallas Willard says, well, of course, each is a God unto himself. And so it's this idea that it's so sad because the enemy comes in and lies to us and says, you want to be free. So then we make choices that make us slaves. And that's what's so sad, because, and this is kind of what you were saying, Courtney, is that it is an illusion that you can be free of everything. You can't be free of everything. To be free of everything is to become a slave to the idea of being free to everything. So the question is, what do you give your life to? What is worthy of giving your life to? And then give yourself to that. Because the problem is, I think we're seeing massive arrested development. I mean, Jodi, speak to this in all the experience you've had with seeing people in ministry. People are so afraid of losing their freedom, they do nothing at all, right? I mean, that is a big problem in Christians and non-Christians.
Yeah. The commitment to being afraid to really commit to something and just seeing it through and being sticking in there when it's difficult and all of that, and just being loyal and all those beautiful attributes that are part of just making a commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I just have to, and you can go right back to what you wanted to say.
No,
Ben,
sorry.
but it's just so funny when a couple of years ago we continue to have a bunch of Colombians in our school, in the school that we run in Germany.
The Steiger Mission School.
That's right, in the Steiger Mission School, and we have a bunch of them, and it was so funny because their culture is more they slant more towards community and being very close, and I, as an independent American, I thought, because they would even sit close together. And I remember one time they said, hey, come sit with us. And they were packed in on the couch. And I thought, where? And it made me really, really nervous, and I kind of sat there, I just sort of squished myself in there, and I thought, oh my goodness. But then just as I lived with them throughout the summer, I thought, man, there is so many cool things about them.
Yeah.
They share life. They are not off doing their own thing, and saying, who cares about you? Well, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. There's so much community and so much just, I'm there for you, that I just thought, yes, put me in this squishy couch. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And it got more comfortable. Seriously.
Yeah. And you always wore deodorant from that moment on, right?
From that point forth. I believe that's also right around the time when your belly fascination kind of sparked.
I would turn and say, let me see that belly.
Yeah, Ania, go.
No,
Yes.
I would like to just say something. What you, Jodi, said, and Courtney, you said, you mentioned about the community. I really believe that what you said, it's a beauty of being around people and really share our lives.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you are in the community, it's what you said, Courtney. It just, when you know somebody for a long time, you can really not only get to know somebody else, but you really get to know yourself, being face to face. Like just, wow, I have problem with this, or wow, this is how I react. This is not right, and people can challenge you and talk to you. So that's why I think this is a lacking point of this culture of be individual, be, like be yourself, because there is no challenge. You are just always put
Yep.
on the
Yep.
spot, and you just feel like everything is fine about me. That's why you don't deal with
Mhm.
the criticism. That's why you don't deal with things that it's challenging, with the even silly. Like, I was talking to somebody last week, and just like criticism from, like, I grew up with the criticism from my teachers all the time, like it
Mhm.
was this, and she was like, oh, but here now it's different, in Poland it's different there. And I'm just saying, like, yeah, but sometimes we need to hear criticism, and we need to know how to deal with this, because if not, I'm looking at this generation, like now, during the coronavirus, that they just really struggle with anything that is just difficult for them. And there is a lot of depression. Like, my friend, her mom is working in the pharmacy, and she's saying, like, every day they are selling like 3 or 4 times more medications, like
Mm.
heavy medication for depression, than before. It's not like in any herbal one, it's just prescriptions and everything, because people don't know how to deal. And they are saying, like, I think they're just realizing, wow, actually, I don't have anyone, like, I don't have
Mhm.
anybody to talk to, and I'm struggling
Absolutely.
with something.
Mm.
So it's
Yep.
very interesting what you were saying about community, but at the same
Yep.
time, I just really feel like we need to be aware and learn about
Yeah.
ourselves, and what's happening around us.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, no, that's awesome. We should try to land this plane, but
Okay.
maybe how we should land this plane is, what is the Jesus antidote to this stuff, right? Because that's part of the problem. Is, from a secular perspective, I have nothing but empathy, because this is what you're told you should be. It's like you follow the directions to a certain house, and it's not what was promised. An image came to my mind. It's like, even in the whole meritocracy, it's like, you imagine taking a plant and pulling it up from the roots, and then just telling it, grow, you show everyone how good you are, have all these branches and beautiful flowers, and they're completely uprooted from the very source that gives them that foundation, that then lets them be a secure, expressive individual. It's not that we're saying individualism is wrong, in the sense that you were made unique and beautiful with gifts and all that.
Yeah.
But you have to have it rooted right, or you're going to wither and die.
Yeah.
And I also think it's worth mentioning before I go on is a lot of this is trauma based, right? Jodi, you mentioned that you were told a lot. Ania, you mentioned that people are criticized. And so a lot of this individualism is a reaction to people telling them they're not good enough. And so they say, well, forget that. I'm going to prove to everyone that I am good enough and I don't need anyone else. And so I'm not saying this is some light academic thing. People are reacting in a very traumatic way. But Courtney, what does Jesus say about this? What does Jesus offer us that gets us out of this trap of the freedom paradox and having to earn our value and being alone?
The first amazing quality of knowing Jesus, that he's never going to leave us, and he promises that 100,000 times in the Bible. And it's hard because you don't want to give like the Bible school answer, but I think that for me, and I think for everybody, that real community is attainable. And I think real community is what God wants for your life. And so it's not like this ethereal, like, oh, in the perfect world, I'll have community. Like, no, I believe that is how God prepared the world for us, and we've messed it up with our sin nature. So it's not that you can't get it, it's that we are sinful. And so the first thing is, I think that you need to surrender that maybe broken part of your life over to God and ask him. But you really need to surrender that. So I think with that, it comes. So like for me, I know there was a season when I really needed to have good friends, and it didn't just mean like, God, give me good friends. It meant, God, give me good friends, and now I need to act. And I think that's kind of the part that we miss sometimes. And that can be scary. And that is really, I'm not saying that's easy, but you have to, and obviously in quarantine, it's a little bit more complicated, but you are lacking community. You need to pray for opportunities, and then you need to take action as well by joining a group. Maybe you already have a friend that you know is loyal to you, but not necessarily speaking truth into your life, but you know that they are a good person. Ask them to hold you accountable. Ask them to be that kind of stepping stone into a deeper relationship. Just
Yeah.
maybe explain to them, like, I just feel like I need a deeper relationship. I'm not saying this is forever. I believe that a true friend is going to honor that and go with you on that journey. It's like, yeah, I'll be there for you. And for 3 months, you want me to hold you accountable until you find a bigger group to be a part of. Those are just a few thoughts I had, that it does take a little bit of boldness and a little bit of punk nature. Like, and it is scary. Like, I'm just going to step out and I'm going to find my community. But I think that God will honor you for taking those steps. And I believe it's what he wants for you. And anything that is according to his will, he's going to give to you and make it accessible to you, not make it a puzzle that you have to piece together. That's 500,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think,
Amen.
Jodi?
I think it's great. I think it's exactly right. I mean, there's scripture we could read, but I think that's the thing. We need to encourage people to go and ask God and find that community, find that group of people, and commit. And
commit.
Be there in the difficult times and the easy times, not just the easy times. So it's rich. It's the rich life that Christ has for us.
Yeah,
That's great.
absolutely.
And Jesus is the biggest example. He put discipleship so strongly, and he discipled, and he gave us the idea about this, how deep and how intentional we should be in the discipleship, that it's not something that we can take lightly. We need to take responsibility of people's lives. And Jesus was just like doing this, like with Peter and with three other disciples, and then with 12, and then 72 and everything. And we just can look at this and say, wow, in Christ we can see how he spent 3 years every day with people, just teaching them. This was the most important thing, and serving them. And this is totally against the culture nowadays. So
Yeah. Jesus is obviously our model. And, and I think we need to look at where, we can think, oh, I need to go out and get X, Y, and Z, when often community is there around us. We just need to make it better. I think,
Yes.
just because you're around people doesn't mean you're doing community. Just the like the warm body thing, you can be at the gym, but that doesn't mean you have relationships. I think you can even be in a marriage and never confront anything. You can just kind of learn to function, and you have functional dysfunction, and all your relationships can be like that. I heard a TED talk that was like, which is like, you probably could learn everything you need to know about you that needs to change in 5 minutes from your friends if they just had the courage to tell you. And it made me just go, like, we spend years not knowing ourselves, and everyone else knows, right? And no one ever says anything, and we don't tell them, and they don't tell us, and then we just go on munted, as David would say, because we just don't have, but again, I think it starts with that foundation. If you don't have your value in Jesus, then you're just on your ground is too shaky. You can't handle that. Right. Because you're still buying your identity like everyone else in this meritocracy of, I am what I do. I am the opinions of those around me. And it's that weird thing not to make them mutually, make it mutually exclusive, or a fake false paradigm. What is the word I'm looking for? A false dichotomy. Sorry, I say that all the time, which is that you are incredibly valuable in Jesus, and yet you're not everything. You're not the center of the universe. It's being able to hold those things in tension, that God cares about you, but really you find yourself in giving yourself away. It's those weird false dichotomies that are hard to wrap our minds around, and yet are so critical to understand. Yeah. So, Jodi, any last little pithy things to add to the table? Or I could just do your pre-recorded pithy little comment that helps.
Okay.
Shall we?
Sorry. I was waiting for it. Yes.
I'd like to see that belly.
We need to expand on our little things.
I will do one embarrassing little audio clip a day for each of you until there's a whole keyboard full, until you can compete with David, his.
And now the sun sets over Hundala Hunda.
That is good. Hundala Hundala.
That's the husband that you lived in a closet with, just saying. Anyway, this is the Provoke Inspire podcast. Sorry if I talk too much. This is like I love this. Like,
yes,
I think
me too.
I will like write on this someday. I think I love this topic so much. Every book in my bookshelf more or less talks about the same thing. I gave a talk recently at the church I go to on this whole topic, and so it's just so fresh in my mind. But I think it's critical. that we challenge the things in us. Don't just go about life living unchallenged, because this individualism is in you. It is. I promise it's in me. And the consequences of it, as we said, are devastating. And especially to those out there who don't even realize the effects of it on their lives. So remember the Hope Beyond Fear campaign. This would be a great way for you to get involved with Steiger. You can, in a creative way, demonstrate the hope we have in Jesus by writing something on a sign, posting it, use the hashtag Hope Beyond Fear. This is a campaign that just continues to grow. You can be involved in that. Go to steiger.org/hope beyond fear. You can know how to pray for us. You can give financially. You can be part of this creative movement. I think that would be a really great thing to do. Again, the 3 R's: rate, subscribe, review. Leave us a review. Tell the ladies how much you love them and how annoying it is how much I talk. That would be good.
In case you're wondering, he will do those kind of like, what do you call that? The 3 R's. He'll do that kind of thing to our children. You're like, Macklin, the 3 R's: rest, snacks, and repeat. I'm like, you're going to scar him for life, because he like,
look,
it's all very confusing.
Look, there is no offstage, Ben. There is me. It doesn't matter the light of day, the time of season.
You need to get a new accent. I'm pretty sure that one's run its course.
Do you think that it's pretty good? Well, thanks for listening to the Provoke and Inspire podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll speak to you next time.
Love you
Peace.
guys.
Thanks for listening to the Provoke and Inspire podcast. To listen to past episodes, search Provoke and Inspire on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever podcasts are found. See you next time.